Her room looked like any other little girl's bedroom. Posters adorned the walls, stuffed animals sat on her neatly made bed, and Barbies were lined up in front of her wardrobe. But there was one thing out of place. Her favorite teddy bear, Mr. Tuffy, was sitting alone on her bed. Right in the middle of the freshly made sheets, it was a cold November night in 2000 when 6-year-old Kaylee Anthony went missing. She had been at home in Orlando, Florida, with her father and grandparents. They said she was in her room sleeping soundly in her bed. But when they went to check on her in the morning, she was gone. The only thing left behind was her favorite teddy bear, Mr. Tuffy. And while police initially suspected foul play, they soon began to think that the girl's disappearance was nothing more than a runaway case. Her father even told them that he believed Kaylee had simply run away to escape her grandparents' strict rules. The investigation quickly stalled, and for over 2 decades nobody knew what had happened to her. But last year, investigators got a new lead, and it all came down to the teddy bear. So what did they find in the teddy bear? What did it reveal? And how is it connected to the case? Keep watching to find out. It was the early hours of November when Casey Anthony's parents, Cindy and George Anthony, arrived at their home in Florida. The couple had been out the previous evening and returned late at night. When they unlocked the door, they heard the sound of children's laughter coming from the living room. Assuming that their daughter Callie was playing video games with her father Lee, they went to the kitchen to grab some food. Then they heard a blood-curdling scream. "What the F?" yelled Lee, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps and a loud bang. At first, the couple thought that their son-in-law was just being rough with Kaylee, but they weren't sure because they couldn't hear what was being said. After a few minutes, everything went quiet again. Cindy and George continued to eat in silence until they heard the sound of Kaylee's footsteps walking slowly up the stairs to her bedroom. Shortly after that, everything was silent. Not thinking much of it, the couple went to their bedroom next door to Kaylee's and fell asleep. When they awoke the following morning, they were awoken to an eerie silence. Normally, Kaylee would be downstairs by this time eating breakfast, watching TV, or bothering her brother. But today, she was nowhere to be seen. As they made their way downstairs, they began to call out for her, but there was no reply. This was very unusual behavior for the youngster, who was never out of mischief. Cindy and George became increasingly concerned and began searching the house for their granddaughter, but she was nowhere to be found. Suddenly, George noticed something out of place. Kaylee's favorite teddy bear, Mr. Tuffy, was lying on her bed. It wasn't unusual for the bear to be on the bed, but it was strange that it was there on its own. Kaylee never went to sleep without taking her teddy bear with her. Cindy and George began to panic, fearing the worst. Had their granddaughter been kidnapped? Were they going to find her alive? Lee had woken up earlier than the rest of the family and had already called the police to report his daughter missing. When officers arrived at the scene, they found the teddy bear sitting alone on Kaylee's bed. The absence of the young girl and the teddy bear seemed strange. But when the officers searched the house, they found no signs of a struggle, and nothing appeared to be out of place. They also discovered that Kaylee had not been bound or gagged, and there were no signs of entry to suggest a break-in had occurred.
Ow.
There was no indication of where Kaylee could be. Meanwhile, the search continued throughout the day. Officers questioned friends and neighbors, but none had seen anything. And as the hours passed, they began to lose hope. By nightfall, they still hadn't found any leads and Kaylee was nowhere to be seen. Eventually, the decision was made to focus on the information provided by the family. They suggested that Kaylee may have run away from home due to arguments with her grandparents. According to Lee and Cindy, there had been frequent arguments between George and Kaylee, which may have led to her running away. But why would she leave her teddy bear behind? In the weeks following Kallie's disappearance, several searches were conducted, but nothing turned up. The case went cold, and the mystery deepened. People began to wonder if Callie had truly run away, or if she had been taken against her will. Over the years, many theories emerged, but none could be proven. Some believed that Kaylee had been kidnapped by a stranger, while others suspected that her own father was involved. However, without any concrete evidence, these theories remained just that, theories. Then, in 2014, Lee married a woman named Robin Gardner, who became the stepmother to Kaylee. The marriage caused further division within the family, with Cindy distancing herself from Lee and Robin. To this day, Cindy refuses to speak to her son-in-law, or the woman her daughter was named after. Now, she has vowed to keep fighting for justice for Kaylee, believing that her daughter would still be alive if it wasn't for Lee and Robin. The case remained in the public eye, but there were few developments until recently. Last year, the teddy bear was taken from the evidence locker and examined by forensic specialists. The teddy bear had been sitting in a plastic evidence bag for more than 2 decades, but when it was pulled out, it was clear that it had not been properly sealed. This meant that it had been contaminated, making any examination attempts almost impossible. However, after all this time, scientists believe they have finally solved the mystery of what really happened to Kaylee. After conducting experiments on the teddy bear, it has revealed that traces of chloroform were found on it. Chloroform is a chemical substance that can be used as a general anesthetic and is often used by dentists. Detectives now believe that Kaylee's father, Lee, may have given her chloroform before smothering her to death. This would explain why there was no sign of a struggle and why the young girl's body has never been found. According to the report, the amount of chloroform found on the teddy bear would have put Kaylee into a deep sleep from which she would not have woken up. Investigators are now confident that Kaylee was not kidnapped and that she was most likely killed by her own father. But why would Lee kill his daughter? According to the report, Lee had been under a lot of pressure at the time of Kaylee's death. He had recently been charged with fraud and was expecting to go to jail. He'd also been having an affair and was worried about what his wife would say if she found out. With so much going on, he began to feel overwhelmed and saw Kaylee as a burden. On the night of November, Lee gave Kaylee chloroform, then smothered her to death. He then placed her in a garbage bag and disposed of her body in a wooded area nearby. In the years since Kaylee's death, Lee has become a suspect in several other cases involving missing women. But despite all the evidence against him, he has never been charged with his daughter's murder. Investigators are hoping that this recent development will finally bring justice to Kaylee's family. Cindy Anthony, Kaylee's grandmother, said, "I am elated that they actually found something. That means that there is still hope that we can find my grandbaby." She added that she believes Lee was solely responsible for Kaylee's death and that he acted alone. But why did it take so long for the truth to come out? According to retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffin, there were a number of reasons why this case remained unsolved for so long. First, the fact that Kaylee's body has never been found made it difficult to determine what had happened to her. Without a body, it was hard to prove that she had been killed. Second, Lee was able to avoid suspicion for many years because he was able to provide a plausible explanation for what happened to his daughter. He claimed that Kaylee had run away from home, and despite the fact that this didn't make sense to anyone, it was good enough for the police. Finally, the family's complicated relationships made the investigation even more difficult. There was a lot of animosity between Cindy and Lee, which made it hard for investigators to get to the bottom of what had happened. But now, thanks to advances in forensic science and the hard work of investigators, they have finally uncovered the truth about what happened to Kaylee. Although it is too late for justice to be served, her family can finally lay her to rest, knowing that her killer will never get away with his crime. What do you think of the case? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and share for more content. Thank you for watching.